Imagine looking at a sports league ladder where the fifth-place team has actually, given up more points than they've scored.
Yeah, it's wild.
Right. Or where a team on a massive 5-game losing streak is somehow, statistically speaking, the single biggest threat to a finals contender this weekend.
It doesn't make any sense on paper.
It really doesn't. Welcome to our deep dives into AFT Dice Season 13, where honestly, right now, the math is just completely broken.
It is. I mean, usually 7 rounds into a season, the ladder is, well, it's a reliable lie detector.
Yeah.
The contenders rise to the top, the pretenders sink, and, the numbers tell a pretty straightforward story. But right now, we are seeing teams completely defy the structural logic of the game.
And that is exactly what we are unpacking today. We're 7 rounds deep, and this weekend's round 8 slate, which kicks off on July 29, 2026, is just monumental.
Oh, absolutely massive.
We've got matches spanning everywhere from Marvel Stadium up to the GABA. And the mission for this deep dive is to look at this data. Because if you're, say, setting a fantasy lineup or, putting in your tips for the weekend, you cannot just look at the win-loss column anymore.
No, it will absolutely lie to you.
It will. So how do we actually read this ladder right now?
Well, you really have to dig into the context of those wins and losses. We have a sufficient sample size now, finally, to look at point percentages, home versus away splits, and the actual underlying mechanics of these active streaks.
Right, because a win isn't just a win anymore.
Exactly. That's how we separate the teams that are genuinely built for a premiership run from the teams that are, structurally fragile and maybe just riding a wave of good luck.
Okay, so let's test that exact premise at the very top of the table. We've got Port Adelaide POR sitting in first place.
Yeah, top of the pile.
Right, with 24 points. They have 6 wins and just 1 loss. But the context here, the really important part, is that they just lost their last game.
Yeah, sitting on a -1 streak.
Exactly. So they've lost a bit of momentum. And then, breathing right down their necks in second place, you have Hawthorn.
How?
Right, H-A-W. They have 20 points, so a 4-point gap, but they lead the entire league in percentage with 126.67%.
Which is huge.
It's massive. And they're riding this massive 4-game win streak.
And that right there is a profound shift in momentum. A +4 streak at this stage of the season isn't just, a run of good form.
Right, it's more than that.
It's a massive indicator of a team whose tactical system is just fully clicking. The players aren't, overthinking anymore. They are just executing.
Okay, let's unpack this, because my instinct here is to look at Port Adelaide as, the student who did all of their homework really early in the semester.
Right, built up that grade buffer.
Exactly, built up a massive buffer, but maybe they just failed a pop quiz last weekend.
Yeah, slight stumble.
While Hawthorn is the student who's cramming right now and just acing every single test. But my question to you is, if Hawthorn's system is clicking so perfectly, why are they still sitting in second? Does a 4-game win streak actually matter more than Port Adelaide's 4-point ladder buffer?
Well, it's a great question, and the answer isn't actually in the overall points.
Oh, where is it?
It's hidden in their specific home and away splits. When you dig into the source data, the fundamental difference between these two teams becomes crystal clear.
Okay, lay it on me.
So Port Adelaide is a flawless 4-0 at home.
Wow, undefeated at home.
Yeah, and they aren't just winning, they are dictating the terms of the game entirely. At home, they have outscored opponents 435 to 306.
Wait, 435 to 306. That is a staggering differential.
It's dominant.
They're basically suffocating teams on their own turf. What is it about their setup at home that makes them so dominant?
It really comes down to structural familiarity, how they use the specific dimensions of the Adelaide Oval.
Right, knowing the ground.
Exactly. They know exactly how to defend the wider pockets. They force turnovers high up the ground. And because they are just so comfortable there, their transition offense is completely lethal. They punish you for every mistake.
Man, that's intimidating.
It is. But if you look at Hawthorn...
Okay, what about them?
Hawthorn is a flawless 3-0, but away from home.
Which is incredibly rare, right? Usually, going on the road is where a team's structure just completely falls apart.
Exactly. The travel, the hostile crowds. But Hawthorn's road defense is terrifyingly efficient. They have allowed only 227 points against them in those 3 away games combined.
Only 227?
Yes. To put that in perspective, they are going into these hostile environments, dealing with opposing crowds, and somehow compressing the space so effectively that home teams can barely score in their own stadiums.
And this right here is exactly why this statistical deep dive matters so much for you as we head into this week. Because if you look at the Round 8 schedule,
It's the perfect storm.
it is. Port Adelaide is hosting Hawthorn at the Adelaide Oval.
It is the ultimate tactical stress test. You literally have the undefeated home team going head-to-head with the undefeated away team.
It's the unstoppable force meeting the immovable object. I mean, Port Adelaide has this plus 129-point differential at home. They know every blade of grass, and they use the width of the ground to stretch teams out.
Yeah.
But then Hawthorn is walking in there knowing they have the best road defense in the league, a defense specifically designed to choke out that exact kind of ball movement. Plus, they have the momentum of 4 straight wins.
Right. And this game will just expose the truth about both teams.
How so?
Well, for Port Adelaide, they have to prove that last week's loss was purely a, what did she call it, a failed pop quiz.
Right, a blip on the radar.
Exactly. Because if Hawthorn comes into their fortress and breaks down their transition offense, suddenly the rest of the league has a blueprint on how to beat the ladder leaders.
Oh, that's a terrifying thought for Port Adelaide fans. And for Hawthorn.
Yeah. For Hawthorn, they need to prove their league leading percentage isn't just a byproduct of beating up on, mid-tier teams. If their defensive pressure travels perfectly and shuts down the #1 team in the competition on their own ground.
That completely shifts the premiership favoritism.
Precisely. Hawthorn's percentage proves they are mathematically stable. But, if percentage is the ultimate lie detector in sports, we really need to talk about what is happening just below these top 2 teams.
Yes. Oh, man. Let's look at the teams sitting just behind them, because this is where the ladder stops making any logical sense.
It really falls apart here.
It does. If you're looking at your fantasy lineup right now, and you just see a team with a winning record in the top 5, you might be tempted to just back them automatically.
Which is a trap.
It is a massive trap. Let's look at Brisbane BRI sitting in 5th place, and Adelaide ADE sitting in 6th.
The contrast here is just fascinating.
It's bizarre. So Brisbane has 5 wins and 2 losses. They are actually tied in overall ladder points with 2nd place Hawthorn at 20 points.
Yeah.
But Brisbane has a negative percentage. They are sitting at 99.08%. They have scored 647 points this season, but they've allowed 653.
Which means across the aggregate of the entire season so far, they have mathematically given up more points than they've actually generated.
Which shouldn't be possible for a top 5 team.
No, yet they've won 5 out of 7 games.
Okay, just to ground this for anyone trying to make sense of the math here. Percentage is your total points scored divided by your total points allowed, right?
Correct.
So when you win a really gritty, close game by 2 or 3 points, your percentage barely moves. It's just a tiny bump.
Just a fraction.
So if you get completely blown out by 50 points, that drags your average down like a massive anchor.
Exactly. A negative percentage with a high win rate implies a very specific and dangerous narrative.
What's the narrative?
It means Brisbane is winning incredibly tight, low-scoring matches, but when they lose, they're getting completely dismantled.
Wow. To me, Brisbane is kind of like
Yeah.
like a boxer with a glass jaw who just keeps winning fights by decision.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
Right. Like they can jab you for 12 rounds, keep the fight close, and grind out a victory on the scorecards. But the absolute second they get hit clean, they don't just stumble, they get knocked out completely.
Out cold.
Yeah. So how on earth can a team survive in the top 5 playing like that?
It really comes down to game management versus structural vulnerability. To win 5 close games, you have to play a very risk-averse, stoppage-heavy style of football.
Keep it ugly.
Exactly. Keep it ugly. You slow the game down, you force congestion, and you just grind out the clock. And honestly, that shows immense psychological resilience from the playing group.
For sure.
But the glaring issue is their transition defense. When a team actually manages to break out of that congestion and get a run of momentum, Brisbane clearly doesn't have the defensive mechanisms to stop the bleeding.
They just leak points in a panic.
Right. And in AFT Dice, percentage is your safety net. It's the ultimate tiebreaker at the end of the season. Without it, Brisbane is walking a statistical tightrope.
One slip and they fall.
Exactly. Every single week, they are relying on their ability to perfectly control the tempo of the game. Because if they lose control, the blowout damages them even further.
Which makes their round 8 matchup absolutely critical. They are playing West Coast WCE at the GABA. Now, West Coast is sitting down in 8th place, but they actually have a higher percentage than Brisbane.
They do.
So if I'm tipping this game, my instinct initially says Brisbane at home, but everything you are saying suggests West Coast might be structurally superior.
Well, West Coast has proven they can maintain a stable defensive structure. If they can force Brisbane to play an open, fast-paced game rather than a congested one, we might see the law of averages finally catch up to Brisbane's negative percentage.
Man, that is
Yeah.
going to be a game to watch. Now, contrast Brisbane's tightrope walk with what Adelaide is doing right below them in 6th place.
Yeah, completely different story.
Because Adelaide's numbers are just as much of an anomaly, but in a completely different way.
Yes. So Adelaide is sitting on 18 points with a record of 4 wins, 2 losses, and 1 draw.
The elusive draw.
Right. They are one of only 2 teams in the entire league holding a draw right now, alongside Gold Coast. And they are riding a 4-game unbeaten streak.
A draw is such a bizarre statistical quirk in this league.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's literally just 2 points on the ladder, but when you look at the standings, it completely alters the gravity of where they sit.
It mathematically insulates them.
How so?
Well, in a league that operates almost entirely on 4-point increments for a win, that singular 2-point anomaly takes them completely off the standard grid. It gives them 18 points, which acts as an absolute safety cushion from the logjam of teams sitting right below them on 16 points.
So they don't even have to worry about percentage right now when it comes to the teams below them because they literally cannot tie with them on points.
Exactly. If an opponent on 16 points wins and goes to 20, they jump Adelaide.
Right.
If they lose, they stay at 16. But nobody is going to catch Adelaide on a percentage tiebreaker.
Because you can't tie with 18 points unless you also have a draw.
Exactly. And that 2-point buffer is incredibly liberating for coaching staff. It allows you to take way more tactical risks during a game because you aren't constantly terrified of, a late opposition goal ruining your percentage and dropping you 3 spots down the ladder.
That makes perfect sense. And it really highlights just how desperate the situation is for the teams directly beneath that safety cushion.
It is a mess down there.
It is, because right underneath Adelaide's 18 points is a complete bottleneck. It is this chaotic, desperate 3-way tie at 16 points.
It's an absolute traffic jam in the middle of the ladder. You have Fremantle, West Coast, and North Melbourne in 7th, 8th, and 9th place. And they all have identical 4-3 records.
But the way they've actually arrived at those identical records couldn't be more different. Let's look closely at the math between West Coast and North Melbourne, for instance.
Okay, let's do it.
So North Melbourne has been an offensive juggernaut. They put up 712 points this season. West Coast has only scored 603.
A huge gap.
That is over a 100-point difference in offensive output. Yet, West Coast sits above North Melbourne in 8th place. Why? Because of percentage. West Coast is at 101.17%, and North Melbourne is at 100.85%.
This perfectly illustrates the danger of playing high-octane, chaotic football.
Yeah.
North Melbourne is clearly playing a fast, sort of slingshot style of offense. They win the ball and push it forward at all costs. It looks incredible, it's highly entertaining, and obviously they rack up massive scores. But it is inherently fragile.
Because when it breaks down, they just get exposed.
Exactly. If you are constantly pushing numbers forward for a fast break and you turn the ball over in the midfield, your defenders are left completely isolated in one-on-one matchups.
Leaving them out to dry.
Basically, yeah. That's why North Melbourne has allowed 706 points against them. They are leaking points just as fast as they score them.
Whereas West Coast is playing a much more disciplined 2-way game. Like, they score 100 points less, sure, but they've only allowed 596 points against them. It's efficiency beating pure volume.
It is. West Coast defenders are clearly operating as a cohesive unit. They force delays in the opposition's ball movement, which, gives their midfielders time to drop back and help.
Unlike North Melbourne.
Right. North Melbourne is constantly living on the edge of a shootout.
And this chaotic bottleneck in the middle of the ladder, it contrasts so sharply with the teams at the absolute bottom whose seasons are just flatlining.
Yeah, it gets pretty grim down there.
Down in the basement, we have Essendon ESS in 16th place on a grueling 5-game losing streak, and then dead last at 18th is Collingwood.
Rough season for them.
Brutal. 1 single win, 6 losses, a league worst 75.14% percentage. They're on an active 6-game losing streak, and they've only scored 547 points all season while allowing 728.
When you look at Collingwood, a -6 streak isn't just a run of bad luck or a tough schedule. The statistics show a total structural collapse on both ends of the ground.
Wow, just everything is broken.
Everything. When you are getting outscored by nearly 200 points across 7 games, it means the players no longer trust the system. Compounding losses like that severely affect a team's psychology, especially in away games.
The belief just evaporates.
Exactly. The communication drops, players second-guess their positioning, and the opposition can absolutely sense that hesitation and exploit it.
Which brings me to my hypothesis about the round 8 schedule, and I really want your take on this.
Right, let's hear it.
So we have struggling Essendon riding that 5-game slide, playing middle-of-the-pack North Melbourne at Marvel Stadium. Now, North Melbourne is desperate to break out of that 16-point bottleneck and solidify a spot in the top 8, right?
Right.
My gut tells me Essendon is a cornered animal this weekend. They have nothing to lose. The external pressure is gone. So they're going to come out and play wild, unpredictable football that could completely disrupt North Melbourne. Does the data actually back up that kind of desperation? Or is a 5-game slide just mathematically fatal?
Well, it's a compelling narrative for sure. And psychologically, you might see Essendon come out swinging in the first quarter with a burst of desperate energy.
A bit of fire early on.
Yeah. But mathematically and structurally, the numbers usually tell a much colder truth. A 5-game losing streak doesn't happen in a vacuum. It means there are fundamental flaws in your transition defense and your forward entries. Desperation doesn't fix a broken defensive zone.
Ah, I see. So that initial burst of energy eventually just gives way to the exact same structural flaws. The fatigue sets in, the system breaks down, and the numbers weigh them down again.
Exactly. And this is where the psychology shifts entirely to North Melbourne.
How do you mean?
Well, for North Melbourne, this match at Marvel Stadium isn't just about securing the 4 points for a win. Because of that massive logjam with Fremantle and West Coast, North Melbourne needs to win, and they need to win by a massive margin.
Because they have to fix their percentage.
Right. They need to boost that 100.85% percentage to finally overtake the teams above them. If North Melbourne buys into the narrative that Essendon is a dangerous cornered animal, and they play, like, conservative defensive football just to grind out a safe win,
They're shooting themselves in the foot.
they are making a huge mistake. They might get the 4 points, sure, but they will fail to move up the ladder. They have to ruthlessly exploit Essendon's losing streak. They have to run up the score and use this game purely as a percentage booster.
It's the hidden game within the game. You aren't just playing the opponent in front of you. You're playing the spreadsheet. Like you are playing against West Coast's defensive efficiency without them even being on the field.
It is entirely about asset maximization at this point in the season. You have to extract maximum value from every single quarter against a struggling team.
Okay, let's just take a breath and recap the incredible journey of this deep dive.
We've covered a lot of ground.
We really have. We started by exploring the ultimate unstoppable force meeting the immovable object, Port Adelaide's flawless home dominance taking on Hawthorn's suffocating undefeated road defense at the Adelaide Oval. It is a genuine stress test for both of these tactical systems.
And, honestly, likely a preview of finals football.
Oh, absolutely. Then we dissected the absolute mathematical anomaly of Brisbane, a top 5 team acting like a boxer with a glass jaw.
Winning ugly.
Very ugly. They have a winning record but a negative percentage, walking a statistical tightrope every single week because their blowout losses are just dragging down their gritty, tight wins.
And we contrasted that with Adelaide's singular draw, showing how a 2-point anomaly provides a massive structural safety net.
Yeah, that draw is basically a golden ticket right now. And finally, we mapped out that desperate bottleneck in the middle of the ladder, where teams like North Melbourne aren't just fighting for simple wins. They're fighting for pure volume.
Right, chasing the math.
They have to ruthlessly hunt for percentage points against basement-dwelling teams who are suffering from total structural collapse.
It truly shows how dynamic and layered a season becomes once you look past just the basic wins and losses. You start seeing the tactical friction between completely different philosophies.
That's fascinating.
It is. And it leaves you with a final thought to mull over as round 8 begins.
Ooh, leave us with something good.
When we look at these extreme streaks like Hawthorn's +4 or Collingwood's -6, we have to ask, does a team eventually revert to the mean?
Meaning, does the universe demand statistical balance?
Exactly. Does it mean Hawthorn is due for a collapse and Collingwood is due for a sudden resurgence? Or do extreme streaks permanently alter a team's baseline capability for the rest of season 13? Do they literally evolve or devolve beyond who they were in round 1?
Oh, that is a fantastic question. As you watch this weekend, keep your eyes heavily on how Brisbane handles their match against West Coast at the Gabba. Watch to see if the law of averages finally catches up to their negative percentage and exposes their transition defense, or, if they can continue to completely defy the math with another ugly, stoppage-heavy win.
It's going to be revealing either way.
It really is. The clear lines of who is objectively good and who is undeniably bad are gone, replaced by these incredible, messy, statistical vulnerabilities hidden right there inside the data. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Enjoy dissecting the numbers and have an incredible time watching Round 8.